Okay, so merhaba herkese, dersimize hoş geldiniz. Hello everyone, welcome to our lesson. It is starting now. It is so great to see all of you already waiting in the channel before the ping. So, what are we going to do today? Bugün ne yapacağız? Bugün verbal nouns hakkında konuşacağız. Today we will talk about verbal nouns. I will just skip the usual reminder part about the stream and trends. We are already a bit late. I will just explain it if something is necessary during the lesson. And I will just directly go to our plan for today. So first I will quickly explain what the verbal noun is, like what the concept is, what that means. Some people are not very familiar with all these grammatical terms. I will try to keep it, learner friendly. And there are only just three suffixes that you need to know: mak, ma, ush. And the uppercase letters, as always, they mean the vowel harmony, like two-way vowel harmony, again, two-way and four-way vowel harmony. We will just see all the different variations and how to use them, when to use them, and there will be interesting reminders from daily speech, like things that work differently in Turkish. So that's the delights of Turkish part, that's what I call it. The regular members can understand what I mean. And let's start now. So first things first, what is an verbal noun? Yes, the first title is not correct. Let me just change this quickly. What is a verbal noun? Let's first define and, talk about, explain it, what it means. As the name suggests, like verbal noun, like a verb, but it's a noun. It works like a noun. And what is a noun? What is a verb? Basically, verb is an action, noun is like a concept, like the things that end with hood or thy. And just a quick example to show what I mean. When I say ben okurum in Turkish, that's in English that means I read. Ben okurum, I read. But what if I like reading? What if I like the action of reading? How do I express this in Turkish? Just like the way you use an ing on English, like reading, in Turkish we use some certain suffixes, like the ma and then the accusative. I will show all the other cases. The base suffix here, the actual suffix that makes a noun out of a verb, is the ma suffix in this example. So ben okumayı severim. I can write one more example. Let's say that ben yürürüm, that means I walk. But what if I do something else that involves the action of walking? How do I express this? In that case, again, I use a suffix like a ma suffix. Sometimes we use the mak suffix. I will explain the difference. Again, in this example, let's say I start or I started. Like, I started going on a walk. Ben yürü. As you can see, now I have me because of the two-way vowel harmony. And then dative suffix, the dative case, because başlamak is a dative verb. We start to something. Yürümeye başladım. Now that means I started walking or I started to walk. So that's the basic idea, that's the basic meaning when I say a verbal noun. And the reason why we make the other one a noun is because there can only be one, like one conjugated verb in a sentence. Başladım, the conjugation like past tense for I, ben başladım, that's our main verb. This is also called a predicate. So that's the main action. There cannot be another action. Like there cannot be another verb. The other one needs to be a noun. It needs to be a verbal noun. So yürümeye başladım. That's why we use one of them as a noun. And they are basically just nouns made from verbs. And most of the time they are used as subject or object. In these examples, they are the object. Ben is the subject. Ben başladım, I started. But what did I start? What is the object? It is walking, the action of walking. So I started walking, the object. And if you have some grammar books, you can also find them under the names of gerunds and infinitives. Okay, and what are the suffixes that we need to turn a verb into a noun? And in other words, what are the suffixes that we need to use an action of doing something with a main action? So now we have these three different suffixes. Mak, ma, ış. Mak, ma, ış. But the uppercase as and uppercase I, it means some vocal, it indicates some vowel harmony. So this goes with two-way, mak and mek. The other one is also two-way, ma and me. But this one is four-way, so ış, iş, uş, üş. Okay? Two-way and four-way, just keep that in mind. Just remember the harmony. Depending on the last vowel in your verb, you need to change the suffixes vowel. In other examples, we will see other things like actually we see ma and me here, and we will also see mak and mek. So, when do we use mak? Or mek? When do we use this one? What is the difference between this and ma? And I also want to give you a quick tip. The only complicated part is the difference between mak and ma. Ish, let me just go back. Ish is completely different. You actually don't really need to worry about it. You can just memorize it as a verb or as a, I don't know, some part of the vocabulary. It's something that you need to memorize. You only need to be careful with the difference between ma and the mak. And let's go back to mak. What is mak? And when you are saying something is, exactly, and in other words, when you use the action as the subject, that's the biggest difference. As Megan is typing examples, like reading is nice. Our subject here is reading. The action of reading is nice. We are talking about the action of reading. So when you say like something is nice or doing this is whatever, like blah blah blah, we use mak. So let me just type this. Most of the time we use it as the subject of the sentence. That's the actual main difference that you need to know. And examples. let's go with the same examples. Walking is nice. Okay, so yürümek, I'm using the mek this time. Why? I mean, the suffix is already mak, but instead of an a, I use an e because of the vowel harmony. So yürümek, güzel. The normal to be conjugation. Yürümek, güzel. Or doing sports. Doing sports is healthy. Spor yapmak, sağlıklı. I know that I'm using more words like healthy, doing sports, nice. These are just the part of the vocabulary, and you also need to know how to conjugate things in the to be form, like when you describe something. But if this part is confusing for you, don't worry about it. In the upcoming weeks, upcoming lessons, we will also have a lesson on the to be verb. And to reading is, let's use a different adjective. What is reading? How will you describe reading? Reading is useful, helpful, fun. Let's go with fun. No boring. Reading is fun, essential, nice, entertaining. Okay, I will go with fun. Reading is fun. And I should also explain that there are some verbs in Turkish that cannot be used without an object. Like I can say okumak eğlenceli, but this is not the most natural way. Okumak needs an object. You need to specify, like kitap okumak, for example. You can of course say okumak eğlenceli, but without the context, if you say this when the person doesn't know what you're talking about, it will sound weird. So kitap okumak eğlenceli. That's a better way to put it. Because you can read many things, and reading, okumak, can also mean studying, it can be like confusing. And cooking. Cooking is, what is cooking? Tiring, boring. I can kinda expect the answers. Cooking is, in my opinion, it's fun, yes, but it's more like, I don't know, time consuming. So I want to make this sentence longer. I will connect it with but. So cooking is fun, but difficult. So now what you need to know is the verb for cooking. But not just pişirmek. I know that dictionaries show this result when you look up cooking. We have pişirmek, but we don't mostly use it. Instead of this, you can either say yemek pişirmek, which is still not my personal favorites. Instead of this, I will say, as the people are suggesting in the text channel, yemek yapmak eğlenceli. Now I got the sentence. Cooking is fun. Yemek yapmak is fun. But zor. Yes. So yemek yapmak or yemek pişirmek eğlenceli ama zor. And speaking of pişirmek, I also want to remind that to cook is like two different verbs in Turkish. You can either say the food is cooking, like you made it, now it is just waiting on the stove, just cooking. Yemek pişiyor, and I am cooking the food. Ben yemeği pişiriyorum. I think this difference is worth a reminder. There are like things, there are verbs in Turkish that are used with an object and without an object. In English, these are used only like with one verb, like the food is cooking and I am cooking the food. Same verb, but different sentence. This time the food is that is cooking, but this time I am cooking the food. Okay? And yes, it is technically called the causative voice. You are basically causing the food to cook. Exactly. Just let's put this as a reminder. And let's have a different example. And we can go with, I can actually use your examples. Teaching. Öğretmek. Teaching is öğretmek. And öğretmek is rewarding. Tough question, tough choice. How do we say rewarding in Turkish? You know, sometimes things cannot be directly translated. We have different ways of saying things. And I maybe go with tatmin edici, satisfying, maybe ödüllendirici. I want to keep it simple. So, teaching is satisfying. Teaching is satisfying. So, öğretmek tatmin edici. So when your verb changes, you can just use the same template. Just the mek or mak, just the full verb, and then just change. Important difference here. So far, we are only conjugating these in the present, like is. What if this was in the past? Like, reading was fun, but now it's boring. When the tense changes, your endings also change, and this is all about the to be conjugation. So, kitap okumak eğlenceli, but now the past tense eğlenceliydi ama şimdi sıkıcı. Reading was fun, but now it's boring. So, I just want to highlight this part. It's the subject of the sentence. Like this. Şarkı söylemek bir sanattı ama şimdi sözleri kötü. Correct? So, singing was an art, but now lyrics are bad. And professional wrestling is my dream. Professional wrestling. Let's go with this. First, we need professional, and you will be lucky. It's one of the adopted words. So, profesyonel, professional. That's how we say it in Turkish. Profesyonel wrestling, güreş. Profesyonel güreş is my dream. Profesyonel güreş benim. Actually, you can say güreşmek, but sometimes there are specific words for them, so you don't always need. You will just have to know and memorize if there's a specific word, if you still need mek. Just like you can see here. And güreş is more like the noun itself, and güreşmek is the action itself. So güreşmek benim hayalim. and profesyonel güreş yapmak benim hayalim. Maybe now this puts the difference better. So we use this ma suffix, ma or me. We use this me suffix when, but I want to put this detail most of the time, because not always. In the delights of the Turkish part, I will show you other examples where this rule doesn't work. So all of the things I am saying about the use of them, like subjects, objects, they are like the most common uses. There will be differences. You should always be, you should always keep that in mind. It's not a strict rule. It can change. Most of the time, we use this me suffix when it's the object of the sentence. Just like the other examples, we use this as the object. And since this is the object, it's different than the subject, and that's when the noun cases come into the play. You need to be now careful with the noun cases. Like in maybe nominative case, you don't need any suffixes, but accusative case, dative case, and even locative case, you will need to be careful, you will need to remember how to use them. So before giving you examples, I want to show you a table so you can see how it works in different cases clearly, just like this. I will use the okumak verb to read. So if we have these noun cases just like this, like okumayı, sometimes you don't need it, sometimes you need it. Accusative case is really complicated, I can't explain it. Like at least included in this lesson. We need to do a separate lesson for the accusative case. But sometimes, or most of the time, you will need to say okumayı. You will need to put this y ending. And it's the reading, it's the object. Instead of saying okumak, now we are saying okumayı. And we are like causing an effect on the action of reading. And then dative. When we start doing something, or when we start to doing something, we use the dative case. Okumaya başladım. And then okumada, like I am good at reading. I am good at walking. I am bad at cooking. Now, that's when you use it. Okumada. And I want to draw a star here. This is an exception. The other cases, they use ma, but the ablative case, it still uses mak. Even if this is this object, not the subject, it uses this mak suffix. Just pay attention here. Like when you're afraid of doing something. And I simply include it from like this. But I mean like when you hate doing something, when you're afraid of doing something. Like I hate cooking. Yemek yapmaktan nefret ediyorum. Or I am afraid of dying. Ölmekten korkuyorum. But zamanında uyumada kötüyüm. Yes, I am bad at sleeping in time. Sleeping in a, responsible time. And I started doing Turkish lessons. Türkçe dersleri yapmaya başladım. Türkçe kitap okumaya başladım. Türkçe okumada kötüyüm. Türkçe dinlemede iyiyim. I'm just giving examples with different verbs like Türkçe dinlemede iyiyim. I am good at listening to Turkish. I'm bad at reading Turkish. Göz göze bakışmaktan nefret ediyorum. I hate staring into each other's eyes. I hate eye contact. Bakışmaktan nefret ediyorum. Sabah erken kalkmaktan nefret ediyorum. I hate waking up early in the morning. Maybe I should make this table smaller if I can fit it in this screen and write these examples. Oh, our star is left here. So let's write your examples. And meanwhile, I'll do something real quick. Just keep typing. And Türkçe'de günlük yazmaya başladım. The de isn't needed, right? Yes, right. Türkçe günlük yazmaya başladım. I should also maybe remind one more time that, as I keep saying, things are not completely the same. We don't completely say the things in the same way. Like, even in English, you say writing in Turkish. We don't use the in when we say it in Turkish. So Türkçe yazmak, not Türkçe'de yazmak. Türkçe konuşmak, not Türkçe'de konuşmak. Like speaking in Turkish or just speak Turkish. Or most of the time I see this mistake with the days or times of the day. Like in English you will say in the morning or at night, like you will use the prepositions of time, but in Turkish we don't use them. We simply say like, instead of saying sabahta, instead of using this ta suffix, we just say sabah or sabahları. Sabah yürümeye başladım. Sabahları yürümeyi severim. The ları part just makes it more clear that you're talking about every morning. And like, we do lessons on Friday. The way to say this sentence in Turkish would be Cuma ders yapıyoruz. Cuma, like Friday, we do lessons. Maybe if I say it that way in English, you will understand the difference. Instead of saying we do the lesson on Friday, in Turkish we are saying Friday, we do the lesson. So this should be a general reminder because I keep seeing this mistake. And I will go back to the examples with ma. Akşamları egzersiz yapmayı severim. Just a quick aorist conjugation mistake. Severim. And mutfağımı temizlemeden korkuyorum. Michael, sorry. Temizlemekten korkuyorum because korkmak is a ablative verb. It uses the tan suffix. Temizlemekten korkuyorum. Okay, this should be an important detail. I keep saying this, that when you learn a verb in Turkish, you should also learn which cases it uses. Does it use dative? Does it use accusative? Does it use ablative? Like which endings? Does it use ya? Does it use da? Does it use tan? You should just memorize this. You should just learn this along like with the verb itself. Don't just learn the verb. Always check the case it uses. So korkmak. It forces the tan suffix on the object. Like we are afraid from things. Let's use a noun. Ben ateşten korkuyorum. I am afraid of fire. Not the fire in a building, just like the fire, like the flame. Because a fire in a building would be yangın. In English they say fire for both. But yangından korkuyorum, ateşten korkuyorum. When you say korkuyorum, you use the tan suffix. And 10 yaşında flüt çalmaya başladım. 10 yaşında flüt çalmaya başladım. That's a correct sentence. In the age of 10, like basically when I was 10, I started playing, and now what is flute in English? I started playing flute. Oh, the same word. Similar, yes. Yes, my bad. 10 yaşında flüt çalmaya başladım. Ben uyumayı çok severim. Yes, sevmek is a accusative verb. It forces a accusative suffix. That's why you need to use y on uyuma. Uyumayı severim. Wait, I forgot to type all of this. I will just collect them after the lesson. But I just want to type this. Ben. This time we don't say uyumak severim. Because mak is mostly used as the subject. And when it's the object, it's mostly used with the ablative case. This is an accusative sentence. Sevmek is an accusative verb. An accusative suffix is a with the buffer letter y. So you need to get rid of this k at the end. Instead of saying this, ben uyumayı severim. So we have mak, ma, ish, ush, ish. Depends on the vowel harmony. So mak is basically the infinitive. When you use something as a subject, we use mak. And ma is basically like a gerund. Like when you use an ing on a verb, we use this ma suffix, like speaking, to speak. And finally, the ish suffix. And I call it my trick because this is not explained in grammar books. I just, find this way to explain it. Maybe it will stick with you. The way of ing, like the way of doing something. Konuşuş. That's not a nice one, but it still works. Görüş, the independent meaning. Yazış, the way of writing. Geliş, the way of coming. Uyuş, the way of sleeping. And like entrance, giriş, and so on. Okay, so if there are no more questions about these suffixes, if everything is clear, I want to show you something important. Herkese geldiği için teşekkür ederim. Thank you everyone for coming and joining. Yarın ödev olacak. Tomorrow there will be homework. So if you are still confused or if you want to practice these subjects, you can do the homework. And see you on Monday. We will have a different practice like reading, speaking. Just check the upcoming lessons And sonra görüşürüz. Kendinize iyi bakın. See you later.